everybody, and welcome to Lucid Prana. I'm Jules. I'm so glad that you decided to click on this video. It's been a week since my last video. We're sticking to the same poses, the same sequence. I'm just going to be continuing on with what happened on the last video. So since last week, there's been a few things that I have done. I've actually gotten some yoga blocks. I got 2 of them in a pack. I got these off of Amazon for like $12 for both of them. So I'm going to be using these on some poses. And then if you don't have yoga blocks, or if you're not going to get any, you can use books, is what I've heard. So maybe just look up how high a yoga block is online and maybe try to go off of it from there. So I'm going to be doing that. I've also kind of put some goals for myself, some new ones, and I want to start learning the yoga terminology for the poses. So in my last couple of videos, whenever I showed you and described each pose and what it is, I pretty much used the simplified name, but I really want to learn the actual name for each pose because it really is the truest knowledge of yoga, I guess is what I could say. And whenever you go to a class, that's more than likely what they're going to be using is the actual yoga terminology instead of just saying the actual name. So yeah, I'm going to be introducing that into this video. So some things that I've noticed in this sequence, this was a tougher sequence. I was super sore when I first started doing it. The first couple times that I did it, I was really sore the next day, and it really was like a whole body soreness. It wasn't just one place or the other. It really was doing a lot for my body. And plus there's a lot of poses to increase flexibility. So it's probably a lot from that too. So not so much anymore though. Seems like my body's starting to get used to it, starting to kind of know what it's doing and all that good stuff. So one of the modifications that I wanted to kind of say that I did to this sequence was the second pose. It's the garland pose. So I will show you real quick the modification that I made. Pretty much I went from grabbing behind the ankles to the normal center, put your elbows in your inner thigh, push out, and you want your back straight. So the other way really for beginners wasn't good because you're more likely to bend your back, and I read that you really want your back straight. So another thing, the reason why I talked about these yoga blocks is because I also say that you can put this underneath your butt, is what I learned, and it gives you the proper height for you to squat and to keep your back straight. So really yoga blocks are to help you get into form before you actually are able to be flexible enough. You're kind of like training your body to get up to the proper pose. So if you can't do the squat alone with your back straight, you can put a yoga block underneath your butt, and then if your heels can't touch the ground while you're doing the squat too, you can fold up a towel and you can place it underneath your heel. Pretty much the gist is you want all of your places supported. Okay, so if you can hear in the background, we have to put my dogs out in the hallway so that they can't like get in the middle of my videos and stuff. So she's whining, she's not happy. She's okay, you guys. I promise we gave her treats and they have toys. So anyway, continuing on. So let's go back over Yama number 2, which is what we are studying along with this sequence. It is Satya, which is truthfulness. The affirmation that I chose, you can use your own or whatnot, was, I am learning to speak and tell my truth, which in turn is living and being my authentic self. I am matching my thoughts and words and actions with what my soul craves. So pretty much I've just been really trying to be mindful of being my truest form, being my most authentic form of self, not letting that ego override my spirit and what I believe. So, as I was looking through some stuff, some inspirational stuff, yoga, I did find a quote, and I really want to share this with you guys because this really hit home. And this also goes along with what we're kind of have been talking about with being your authentic self, pulling back those layers in order to get back to your truth and things like that. So the quote says, finding yourself isn't really how it works. You aren't a $10 bill in last winter's coat pocket. You are also not lost. Your true self is right there, buried under cultural conditioning, other people's opinions, and inaccurate conclusions you drew as a kid that became your beliefs about who you are. Finding yourself is actually returning to yourself and unlearning expectation, a remembering who you were before the world got its hands on you. And that's by Emily McDowell. So that was just really, really good. It, kind of referring back to how it's there, what you're trying to get to, that peace, that being your authentic self, it's in you. You just are taking back those layers, all the former habits that you formed, your thought patterns that you've already formed, you're just removing all that, getting back into it. And I just thought that was a really, really good quote, and I wanted to share that with you guys. Another side note is, I've talked to you guys about how I've been on like a mindfulness journey for a while. And I wanted to share something so you guys could kind of get a background on if you wanted to look into yourself and kind of see what I'm talking about whenever I say that, because it's kind of hard to explain for somebody that hasn't done a lot of research or isn't aware of those kinds of things. I was listening to a podcast this was a big one for me. It's called Manifestation Babe. I know it's on Spotify. I know it's on YouTube even. I know I use the Apple Podcast. But it's Kathrin Zenkina, and she's pretty much a mindfulness manifestation coach, and she goes into a lot of good stuff on how your thoughts work, how your ego versus your spirit works. She even does specific episodes, like right now we're in this pandemic, and she has done specific episodes on how to keep your stress level at bay, how to get through these things, even with all the crazy emotions rising around us. So I really would recommend pulling that up. She has a lot of good stuff. She has a lot of like businessy kind of stuff, like money mindset kind of stuff too. But she, on the other side, she does have the regular, not so much money business side of things, just normal day-to-day life type stuff. One of my favorite episodes is actually Why Self-Love is the Secret to Success. She has a guest on there, Paul Fishman. That, I would start there. That just would kind of give you a good kind of what she's about, how she thinks, and all that good stuff. So yeah, just a little recommendation. I will put that in my description below, so you can find it if you're interested. All right, so we're going to go ahead and get into our sequence now. Like I said, I'm going to be introducing those poses with the real yoga terminology. So I'm going to try the best I can. All my sources come from yogajournal.com. That's where I've gotten a lot of poses, a lot of information on how to do my sequences and things like that. So that's a good place to check out. I'll put that in the descriptions below. I actually found that this little Indian style thing that I like to do, it's called the Lotus and Padmasana pose. That's the grounding, all that good stuff. So as you know, I start there. Then I go into the bound angle pose. I've called it the butterfly stretch. That one is the Baddha Konasana pose. Putting your feet out, pushing them as close to your pelvis. You really can feel the stretching. I definitely feel this one making me more flexible. Extend your torso. You don't want to be slouching. So yeah, do that, breathe that for about 10 seconds. Then we're going into the garland pose. As we talked about before, I showed you the variation on that. This is what it's supposed to look like. I'm going to be working as I get more flexible. You're going to see my back come up a little bit more. I'm not going to be so bent down, but this is pretty much how it's supposed to look. I'm pushing my elbows on my outer knees so I can get a really good stretch. Okay, so inhaling and dropping from that, we're going to the head to knee forward bend pose. Oh, head to knee forward bend. Yes, head to knee forward bend pose, Janu Sirsasana. Like I said, you can use a yoga band for this if you're not flexible enough to touch your toes. I ended up being flexible enough to do this. I also put my hand on my hamstring just to make sure my leg, because it may start shaking a little bit, I push it down to keep it down. So you just bend over, square forward, push or lean over with your torso, not your hips. Keep your back straight. That's the main thing on this. And then I switch legs. Even since the first time of me doing this pose, I've already noticed more flexibility in my right leg, that I actually can touch my right leg now as of this morning doing my session, rather than I couldn't before. I couldn't actually grab my foot. So I can actually do that now while placing my hand on my hamstring and pulling down. So I've already noticed some progress on that. Okay, next we're going into the wide leg forward bend. Spreading out your legs 3 or 4 feet, focusing on the outside of your feet, letting your weight drop to that. Inhaling with your neck or opening up, breathing. Then bring your hands around, place them on the ground. You want your hands facing forward. I wasn't sure which one because it actually felt more natural to point them towards the back, but you're supposed to have them facing forward. Keep your legs tight so that your legs can stay straight. All right, and we're coming out of that one. We're going into the low lunge, which is the Ajaniyasana. Oh, I forgot to mention that the last one, the wide leg forward bend, is Prasarita Paratanasana one. So, but anyway, low lunge, Anjaneyasana. Going into that, just like your warrior pose on all fours. Put your right foot in, other leg back as far as it's comfortable, knee on the ground, and then you inhale up. And you breathe. Do that for 10 breaths. I pretty much do 10 breaths for every one of these poses. This one's tightening up your core, straight, making that back leg more flexible, stretching it out. And then coming down from that, we're going into Warrior One, which is Virabhadrasana one. This one, square your hips front, but you're getting into the same, pretty much putting your foot by your hands, bring it up, put back foot must be parallel with the back of your mat. Inhale up, but like I said, you're facing forward. So about 10 breaths, inhale on the up. And as you can see, I've been doing this in a sequence like I said I was going to try to do last week. I was doing first the low lunge, and then I would do on that same leg the warrior one, and then I would alternate do the low lunge and then the warrior one. Tougher because you're using the same leg and you're really straining it. Not straining it, but you're holding it. So it is tougher if you want to do that. So if I really wanted to push myself a little bit more, I would do that, but if I wanted it to be a little bit more of an easier sequence day, then I would go ahead and switch. I would do the low lunge first and then the warrior, not correlate them together at all. So coming up, just doing the other leg. All right, so as we come from those, we're going into the chair pose. And the chair poses yoga term is Utkatasana. So I told you guys wrong last week on the breath. So as you're doing this, catch your breath. You bring your arms up. You inhale and you actually drop on the exhale. You don't inhale, exhale, then drop on an inhale. You hands up, inhale, then drop on the exhale, trying to get your legs as low as possible. I don't think I got low enough in this video. I need to get lower. I was doing better. I was a little sore this day, so I couldn't get as low, but this kind of feels like a plank to me, the way that it's working your core muscles. So coming from that, really try to hold that for 10 breaths. We're going into the extended puppy pose, which is the Utthana Shishosana. Pretty much just coming down on all fours. Your hands are a little bit ahead, your knees are behind your butt, and then you bring it back. Your butt's kind of at a 90-degree angle, and then you put your forehead on the ground, but keep your elbows off the ground. All right, coming out of that, we're going into the twist stretch that it's called the Bharadvajasana one. So, yes, so that's the technical term for it. But yeah, just twisting, keep your back straight, both sides of your butt on the ground, look over your shoulder. Pretty much we're just catching our breaths with these last couple of poses and doing some stretches after doing some hard like muscle work, not muscle work, but like strengthening and flexible and having to hold it and all that stuff. Okay, so the last pose that I go into is called the supine spinal twist. The technical term is Sapta Mati Asana. So laying down on the ground, bring your leg up, over, other leg up, over. The one thing that I did read is that when you switch sides, you want to, since your leg is over, you want to bring it up to your chest, then back down. You don't want to just fall out of pose. I've read a lot about you don't want to be falling out of poses. You can actually hurt yourself on some of the poses, so you have to kind of do it with your breath. So as you're coming out of it, up and then down. So instead of just falling out of it. And that's pretty much it. Like I said before, as I've been doing the sequence, I've kind of just been ending with the corpse pose just because it's I'm already on my back. It's been nice out lately. I just kind of enjoy it. All right, well, that is it. I'm so glad that you decided to watch with me again, going through this sequence. If you like this video, subscribe to my channel, like it, share it. And I just can't wait till next week, you guys. I hope you guys have a good week. I appreciate you watching, and keep your lucid prana.